to the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee on Agriculture and Natural Resources. We've got a pretty full agenda, so we're going to try to move through this quickly. Most of us have various other committee meetings going on this afternoon and other things we need to do, so would appreciate, we want to be thorough but expedited as possible too, expeditious I guess. Chairman Payne, would you give us a opening prayer and then we'll call the meeting to order, I guess.
Let us pray. Heavenly
Father, we thank you so much, Lord, for all your many blessings each and every day. Lord, we just ask you to bless us and guide us and give us direction in all things that we do today in this meeting and all the meetings to come. Lord, we just ask your presence and your peace be upon us as we seek to serve your will, for in all things we do that we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna go with the State Forestry Commission first. I think they're getting a privilege resolution in the House, and so we're going to let them go first so they can get over to
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
do that.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much, and Commissioner Harper, I hope, sorry to break in front of you there, but I appreciate it. We've got a special day up here recognizing our employees, really the best of the best, and we did it in the Senate earlier today, and Chairman Anderson was certainly a partner in that, and we appreciate that. It's a big deal for our folks to get recognized, so thank you for that.
Yes, sir, Director. We've all got the Senate, the governor's version of the budget.
Governor's version of the budget.
And we have a tracking sheet, which is a last minute add to us for some changes that the House made. This is to everybody that's presenting. You can talk just to the governor's budget if you want. You can include comments about maybe House changes if you'd like. That's up to you.
Okay.
But we've got different pieces of paper depending on if you're talking about House adds or reductions. We'll have to refer to this tracking sheet here. So
okay.
Just to set the ground rules. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're fine. So what I will say is I'll just make some general opening remarks for this committee, and just I know last year you guys funded some great initiatives that were targeted toward recruitment and retention, and then obviously as an agency we did some things internally. We redirected about $850,000 internally to address retention and recruitment. And what I would like to say, as of the meeting, as of about a week and a half ago, our resignations have gone down across our agency. We're at 41 this year versus 71 at the same time as last year. So what I would say is that I'm encouraged. I'm also a data guy, so I would share with you that when you look at data, you got to be mindful at one point in one time. But I'll turn from that and just say that I think, voice appreciation for what this body did and the governor did, and then what our team internally has done to address recruitment and retention. But I also believe we've got to keep our foot on the gas pedal so we do not lose momentum, and so we can continue to fulfill our mission to protect and manage Georgia's forest resources for our landowners. So I'll turn to the governor's first, Mr. Chairman. His is pretty straightforward for our agency. Fiscal year 24, there's a $2,000 COLA.
Okay, so we're on page 7, gentlemen.
Page 7
of the committee. Section 26.
Section 26.
All right, yes, sir.
Okay. He's presented for all of our departments a $2,000 COLA increase, and what I would just acknowledge there is that there was a miscalculation by OPB for our agency, and we have worked with Lindsay to provide her with the backup data to demonstrate what that miscalculation was. OPB is aware of that. We brought it to their attention. It's a shortfall of about $453,000 across all of our departments. And they are on board with making that amendment and making that correction. I do believe that is reflected in the House's version that correction has been added. So my ask of you guys would be to support what the House has done related to the $2,000 cost of living adjustment for all of our employees across the board. That's consistent. The only other thing that's outside of that that I would draw your attention to is within our protection department, and it is on, pardon me here, line 173.1. No, excuse me. I'm having a hard time reading it.
174.5,
174.5. I need my readers. It's on page 10, and that is an increased funds for operational expenses is what that is, and that is $393,000, and we'd like to ask for you guys to continue to support that. As I told you in the amended budget hearing, our bulldozers and our large vehicles that we use to transport those bulldozers around still run on diesel, and we are operating in the same environment that many other folks are these days with increased fuel cost and increased maintenance. You'll notice there on that line 174.5 that that has been netted out of the 120 that we will save by purchasing the leased vehicles that you guys funded in your amended fiscal year 23 proposal. So I would stop there and just that's a summary of what the governor has put in his budget, and I would be willing to take a question on that if there's any questions specific to those, and then I can address real quickly, give a little story on what the House, if you would like that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any questions so far for the director? All right.
Okay. So the House, I apologize, I'm not looking at that sheet, but my understanding is that fresh off the press yesterday, there's an addition for additional recruitment and retention efforts that our agency they're offering. I think it's $3.1 million total for our agency to help us continue to support, really to keep the gas pedal pressed down on our recruitment and retention efforts. And really what that does for our agency will allow us to move our starting salary for our wildland firefighters who have a CDL truck driver's license, and their heavy equipment operators and their wildland firefighters. That will allow us, with that 3.1 add, will allow us to move their salary to $41,000 starting. It's still right. We're very grateful for that. Very grateful for that add that the House put in. It would also allow us, really at the core, we're about our foresters and our rangers as an agency. Our rangers are the wildland firefighters. This also would allow us to move our foresters to a starting salary of $48,000. Our foresters are professional trained graduates most of them are from the University of Georgia or ABAC, Abraham Baldwin. So we think that's a great stride in the right direction for our agency. I think it will do a lot for securing and the current workforce that we have, and it will also allow us to attract future workforce. And I'll just close. Where this came from is during the hearing with the House, I made a comment, and I think they keyed in on this. I know they did, because this is where this originated from. 1 out of 3 of our 550 employees have less than 3 years of experience. I'll say that again. 1 out of 3 of our 550 employees have less than 3 years of experience. And we're talking about folks that are working in hazardous conditions and doing important work for an important industry that, frankly, our state depends on. And we certainly are appreciative of what the House added. And just wanted to give a little background to that for you guys as a committee for your consideration. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll stop there, and if there's any questions.
Any questions? Director, you asked, and this is going to be a common theme you're going to hear from me today, all the agency heads. You were able to reallocate, I think you said $890,000 for recruitment and retention, mostly working on retention.
Retention, yes,
And
sir.
I'm glad and proud of that. How many vacancies do you currently have?
We have 47 in the Ranger class.
And how many have you had I mean, has that been kind of consistent?
That is down from, last year at this time would have been roughly 60-ish. So we are making progress. And I shared that with the amount of resignations that we're having as well. We're down to, year to date, we're at 41 this year. Year to date last year, for the fiscal year, we were at 71. So we are making progress, and I believe we're heading in the right direction.
So my challenge to you, Director, and you're a business-minded person, and come from the private sector, which is where I come from. I want you to take a hard look at all your positions, and if we're gonna, I'd rather see us reflect the actual money where it's actually going, than have a bunch of open positions and really shifting that money elsewhere.
Well, Senator, you just answered, you really answered how we funded those initiatives by those open positions. Some of
So,
those 47 will remain open.
Can my challenge to you is to look at it hard. You
Yep.
know, we've been able to operate for 3 or 4 years without a full complement. What's the ideal number? What do we absolutely really have to have? And let's pay let's pay what we need to pay to keep what we got. And I mean, it really struck me when you said an experienced firefighter with a CDL license is $42,000.
Right now, that job we're hiring at 35.
And we see Walmart advertising for truck drivers for $100,000, right? I mean,
I won't disagree with that statement.
So-
I see that advertisement. Yes, sir.
But you're hoping to get it to 42.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, but I think you get where I'm coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. And my commitment is to continue to do that.
So I want from a budgetary standpoint to really our appropriations to reflect accurately, you know, where the money's going. If we're only going to fund in the future, if we're only going to fund X number of positions, but at a higher salary, to be competitive and to hire good quality and retain quality, which is cheaper than all this turnover, and better for the Georgia citizens. I just want to reflect that and not just continually have 40, 50, 100 open positions, and we're really just shifting money internally. That'd be my preference. So.
Right. So to that point, we have a strategic initiatives director on board. We hired that individual with the funding that you guys gave us last year to look at a performance audit that was done on our protection department, our largest department, and that is what that individual is doing. And that's a position that I saw work very well in some previous positions that I've been in. Corporations have had that individual that comes in and just strategically looks at a specific project, and that is a large focus of that initiative. Probably we'll have that done by the June. So stand by and look for some more on that.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. Now we'll get back in the order that we have on our agenda. Commissioner Harper, Department of Agriculture. Welcome, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, good to be with y'all. All of my friends, good to see y'all again.
Good to see you.
Oh, is that how it works? Hey. Well, no comment on that. I'll hold comment to my former friends then. But it's good to see all of y'all. I know we're all on tight timelines, and I know y'all got places to be, so I'll just dive right in and we'll get going. And we have a slideshow we can just throw up there to kind of talk through some of it too. Just talking in the governor's budget and what the governor put in for our agency in FY24, just like every other agency, the $2,000 increase for salaries, so that was an addition. And I'll talk about it in just a second, and when I get to the House version that has passed the committee over there. We were short about $330,000 in regards to the $2,000 pay raise in the governor's recommendation, and I'll talk to that in just a minute. The other two parts are the statewide adjustments for merit and other pay related items in the budgetary process. And also the almost $250,000 for the agricultural trust fund was included in the governor's budget. Kind of more specifically, kind of hone in on the House recommendations because they included a lot of what we had requested during the House budgeting process. And if you want to go to your tracking sheet for the House, you'll see those changes. The House did include that almost $330,000 in regards to those funds for recruitment and retention. Those were those additional funds that we needed to ensure that all of our employees in the department were covered with that $2,000 pay raise, and so they included that in their version. I'll come back to the raw dairy money in just a second. The House also included the request that we made for $340,000 for the state agricultural response team. This is a specialty group of individuals throughout the department. It's made up of numerous employees in the department that do whenever there's an emergency related to our department in emergency management. Think avian influenza is a perfect example. This team is the team that is on the front lines. These individuals do this voluntarily because there's a lot of the employees for the department that don't work in that particular division of the department, but because of the necessity of the event, we bring in employees from all across the agency to work on this, and they're part of this response team. They do this in addition to their other duties. So we're asking for some additional funds. The House included it in their version to give some pay incentive to those employees, and also give us some additional funds for training and equipment that we need to ensure that our response team is prepared, and as prepared as the best that it can be whenever these issues arise. And we're appreciative of that add by the House. I'll go back to the dairy deal really quick. The House put in half of the request for the dairy funds. Many of, as we've talked about in the amended budget, and Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the committee's work in giving those additional funds for the dairy program. Y'all included it, and it was in the conference committee report as passed the House and the Senate, and now sits on the governor's desk in regards to the raw dairy program. And we appreciate that additional funds, but we are requesting funds for FY24 for us to be able to run the program as needed. That total amount is almost $1.3 million. The House put in half of the funds, and you'll see that there of the little over $637,000 that the House added to the budget. So that's half of the request for the raw dairy money. We would request that we get the additional half. That would be our ask, so we can have the needed resources to ensure that we're able to get this program. Obviously, we got the money to help us get it up and going, and we're in the process of advertising for the positions for that particular program, and that way we'll be ready to go on day one on July 1st. We're in the middle of the rule process as well, about getting to a point to where we can advertise the rules that will be for the raw dairy program that we're overseeing, but this budget request is for the ongoing needs that we'll have in that particular program to ensure that we have the resources we need to allow the raw dairy program to be successful and us to have the ability to execute the mission that we've been asked and tasked to do with the legislation that we all passed last year. And then,
Pardon me, I think we have
Yes,
a
sir.
question from Chairman Gann.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Commissioner, I'm kind of curious if we're talking on the, I heard for years and years like you did about being able to sell raw milk in Georgia.
mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of curious, do you have an idea what the volume of raw milk sales will be?
Honestly,
If we look at other states that,
Yep.
that allow it, do you have any idea how to base that based on our population?
Mr. Chairman, honestly, that's been the difficult cost of us trying to come up with the needs and the resources we're looking at to try to ensure that we have the needed resources to be able to address the program, because we really don't know the exact number. We have an idea of the number of folks that have expressed interest. I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I can definitely get that back to you. We know who has expressed interest, and so we're basing our information off of who has expressed interest. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get into the program, but that doesn't necessarily mean that those are the only ones that will get in the program either. So our calculations that we've done internally are based off of those that we understand have expressed interest. I thought I had that number in this document that I got in front of me about the raw dairy program, but I don't see it. I will be happy to get that number back to you.
I'm curious. The only reason I asked, Mr. Chairman, if I can indulge, said you know, I don't know, maybe you sell 1 million gallons of milk, and we're going to spend, that kind of money. They own it. Then okay. Is that something that we need to revisit? I don't know if you can. What I'd like to see if you got look into other states that allow for raw milk sales. For me, I know you and I have friends that had dairy farms here in Georgia that drank raw milk all their life growing up. Said they don't begrudge those people for wanting to drink raw milk, but there's a cost to all the taxpayers for doing this, and I'm kind of curious how that would face. So anything you can share with me on that, that'd be wonderful.
And I'd be happy to share with you the justification for all of those dollars. We have a breakdown that details out exactly why we need those funds. Laboratory equipment is expensive. We don't have the appropriate lab equipment to address raw milk right now.
I'm sure you're doing your due diligence.
Yes,
I'm just kind of curious from a state perspective. I look at every taxpayer in Georgia subsidizing this program because there's a small number of people that want to do the raw milk, and is that something that we should bear that brunt or how do you go about
Mr. Chairman, that's a decision of the General Assembly to make.
That's my understanding. I think we all know that.
And I would, when I was in your shoes, that we would have that conversation. But now I leave that up to y'all to make that decision. I'm just executing what I've been asked to do statutorily, and the raw milk legislation passed last year. It's now law. It goes into effect on July 1st, and as a department, we've got to be prepared to execute that statute and be ready to do that, and it's going to require those additional funds to help us make that happen.
I appreciate your comments.
Yes, sir.
All right. So this is policy that's been already passed, debated, discussed. Anything budget related, not whether or not we should have raw milk or not. Number 9, Chairman Anderson.
Commissioner,
Yes, sir.
you got a good looking tie there.
Thank you. You do too, Mr. Chairman. You chose well this morning.
On the raw milk, you halfway answered the question. I know you said you got to get a lot of lab equipment now. Does it have also in this amount of money, is it additional employees?
Yes, so we need additional dairy inspectors to be able to do the program. We
So
need
how many-
additional
how
field
many-
inspectors.
how many- You don't have how many employees?
Let's see. Give me just a second. I'll try to. Okay. Yep. So those figures include a total of 4 additional individuals for the dairy program.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yes,
Mr.
Chairman Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, thank you for being here, and I supported the raw milk program. Since we're still in the early stages of understanding what kind of volume that this might produce and what kind of total market we have out there, is there an option of contracting the lab services early so that you wouldn't have to make capital improvements today, but you could defer that until you know what the actual need might be?
I mean, there's always that possibility to contract those services, but we already do all of the dairy lab work already. So we have some of the infrastructure in place. This is just lab equipment in addition to the lab equipment that we already have in providing those dairy services in regards to the dairy industry in our state. So it is an additional cost in regards to the lab equipment because there's some equipment that we need to do specifically some of the raw milk programs. There is a possibility that we could look at that. But our intent was to be able to do it in-house because we already do all the other dairy work in-house already. We would just continue providing that service. But it's definitely a question worthwhile looking into, Mr. Chairman, and I can discuss that with our team. But again, we're already providing those dairy services at the department. This would be additional equipment to be able to provide that same service for this particular program. I will say, in other areas, we do some of that already, depending upon what program that it is. Hemp is a perfect example. We do that through third party. We are discussing internally whether or not we should bring that in-house. That's a discussion we're having right now because of some of the additional costs that we are bearing. But I guess it's dependent from program to program and the net cost and the long term of what it looks like. But again, our budgetary numbers that we have budgeted for this program is based off of we did a survey, and it's based off of the survey of the number of folks that were interested in participating in this program, and that's where we were able to come up with the resources we needed to be able to execute it.
Just to follow up, thank you for that consideration. I think early on in the program we might look at determining what the end goal would be, but in the interim, maybe perhaps look at some options.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We've turned that subject pretty good. Let's
yes, sir.
let's keep going.
We'll keep going. Last item I'll talk about is the other addition by the House in regards to the Soul Amendment program that we have at the Department of Agriculture. The House added $550,000 in addition for additional inspectors and additional resources to execute that program. Obviously, I am supportive of that add and ensuring that we have the tools, the resources, and the personnel for us to be able to execute the Soul Amendment program to the highest regard possible. And I would appreciate the committee's support of that, and would hope that you would support our efforts in ensuring that we have the needed staff and resources to ensure that we're executing that program to the highest regard possible. And protecting consumers and also protecting our state's number one industry, which is agriculture. So that's all the House adds, Mr. Chairman. I've already talked about the additional a little over $637,000 for the raw milk program, for a total of a little over $1.2 million for that in total. The House, like I said, put in half. We're asking for that additional half, and we would ask that you would consider the House adds. And we would appreciate your consideration of keeping those in the budget. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to answer any other questions if there are any.
We certainly appreciate you addressing the Soul Amendment in your discussions, and it's something that a lot of the legislators are interested in, and
Yes,
our
sir.
communities are interested in. And I would ask you to with this with additional resources that you may get, I assume you would be very work collaboratively with county governments and the locals where.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I think that's part of the point of this.
It is 100% the point. Matter of fact, Mr. Chairman, I've been working with our team to come up with a plan on what a robust soul amendment program would look like within the department. That's where this number come from when I was asked what that would cost, and we believe that this would give us the tools necessary to be able to execute a robust program. Obviously, we're trying to be as frugal at the same point. There are other needs in that program as well. Especially when you get into the conversations around laboratories, the same conversation we had, Senator Burns. We think we can do that in other ways, but this is strictly related to primarily related to personnel and tools and resources for personnel to help us execute the program and ensure that we're, like I said a second ago, protecting consumers and ensuring our state's #1 industry successful all at the same time.
Commissioner, is it not true that the legislature continues to give you additional responsibilities? And this is one of them, and this is a very high profile, sometimes contentious issue, but it's vital to the success of our food producers and our farmers that we get this right.
Yes, sir.
And also while at the same time protecting the safety of communities and the quality of life in communities. So this is a challenge that we put on your plate.
Yes, sir.
And we would be wise to fund it appropriately, in my opinion. Chairman Burns, comment, question on that?
Just a comment, I want to add to the chairman's remarks. First of all, thank you for the department taking on this challenge. We
Yes, sir.
recognize it's a challenge. We realize it's a sensitive issue in some areas, and I fully support your funding request.
Thank you, Senator
Good
Burns.
luck with that.
Thank you.
Chairman Anderson.
Commissioner, I know you asked for a request, the other half on the raw milk, but do you think that the amount that the House put in for just 2 employees and vehicles and all, is that enough
For the soul amendment program? Mr. Chairman?
To do it right. This is one we need to.
I understand.
Get done
That's what I asked for. If you really want to dive off into it a little deeper, it gets into the whole laboratory discussion. There is some lab equipment that is available to help us in addition to this. There are third parties that provide some of this service already. So instead of giving sticker shock, because that's the lab equipment would be another, how about a little over $500,000 as well. So that would be in addition to the funds already in the budget for the personnel. Right. So we would, if you want to, we could have that discussion more in detail offline, and I can give you more information on what that would look like. We feel like the personnel addition will help us head in the right direction, and we can utilize third parties to help us on that particular side to help us address that. Gets to the question we were talking about earlier. It depends on from event to event or division to division. But if we do really want to bring that completely internal and allow us to really do what we need to do, we could have a further discussion on the laboratory side, Mr. Chairman. But I'm appreciative of the addition of the personnel in the budget. I think this will help us address the need. As Chairman Walker mentioned a second ago, the department does have a lot of responsibilities. We're talking about other things this legislative session. Many of you know a lot of the things we're having conversations about what the department may take on over the next year or couple of years. And I'm happy to have those conversations. But it's important that we look at the resources needed to address those issues and allow us to have the appropriate resources to do it effectively. This will help us head in that direction. And as I committed to many of you early on in this program, I'm going to do everything I can to ensure that we're doing it right. And I believe this will help us head that direction. If we need additional resources moving forward, that can be a conversation we have later on. But it's definitely a sensitive topic, as Chairman Walker mentioned a second ago. But we're committed to executing the mission we've been asked to do, protecting consumers and allowing our #1 industry to be successful.
And just to follow up, I think one thing that we can
that we can do in this area is really work with the locals. Get something worked out with the locals, with the commissioners, to where they can help you also. They there, and they, believe me, I know. I mean, most of this is in my area.
Mhm.
And I mean, they are ready to help and make it happen.
I think these additional resources will help us
Yep.
start in that direction, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner, we know, like the Forestry Commission, you have challenges filling slots. You need to, but you've not quite been on the job 2 months, I think.
That's correct, Mr.
We're
Chairman.
gonna give you some grace.
I appreciate
that. But I hope you will do sort of a zero-based budgeting approach.
Yes, sir.
And see if we can't close out some of these opening positions,
Yes, sir.
or at least fund them to the level where you can attract people to fill them.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of them are are needed,
Are vital.
obviously. But I just, again, want to be as transparent with the public and with the legislature and, as possible. And when we have, we're appropriating money for positions and we can't fill them and the money's being used to supplement other positions to keep those people, I just want to reflect that in the budget. I'm not, it doesn't necessarily mean we're cutting anything. It just means we're being accurate with where we're putting our resources.
Well, to that point, Mr. Chairman, I've told our senior team at the department that as soon as the legislative session is over with, when I have more opportunity to do that, we're going to be working on a deeper dive in those needs, in those critical areas especially, and to see where we are and what it's going to take to ensure that we have the appropriate staffing that we need to execute the job we've been asked to do. I hope to have a plan to present to the General Assembly next session on the results of that. And so, and some of it may be moving positions from one area to another. I don't know what that looks like right now, Mr. Chairman. I'll just be honest with you.
Fair enough.
But you have my commitment that we are already planning on working that, and we are going to work on that. And I hope to have the General Assembly a plan when y'all come back into session next session. Hopefully, have it earlier than that, so some of us can start having those conversations before session starts next year on what that looks like. So we look forward to doing that. I think it's important for us to do that, to do an internal audit of where we are and where we should be as a department. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate the efforts to give us the additional resources, especially for recruitment and retention. And that's been the biggest issue for us, is salaries, recruitment, and retention. And that's part of that deeper dive we're going to do later
Perfect.
this year.
One last request. Try to squeeze your federal partners as hard as you can to get that money for the $2,000.
Yes, sir. We have been. I instructed our team as soon as I heard the governor's announcement on the $2,000 pay raise. I immediately instructed our staff and our team to begin those conversations with our federal partners to try to get that additional money. As we discussed in the 23 amended, we're still short a little over $200,000 on the federal side from the $5,000 pay raise already. So we still haven't got that money from the feds. But we have already started those conversations, and you have my commitment to make sure that we're doing that with our federal partners, because that is vital as well.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's just fair that we're contracting. They're contracting with us to do
That's right.
what otherwise would be their responsibility. They need to step up with the appropriate match.
And we're working to do that.
Thank you, Commissioner. You're doing a good job.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Good to see all of y'all. Appreciate y'all, my friends.
Okay, next, going to hear from the Soil and Water Conservation Commission.
Good afternoon,
Good
Mr. Chairman,
afternoon. Yes,
members
sir.
of the committee. First off, let me offer my apologies for not providing even though I don't have a lot to discuss, a brief presentation. My wife and I had the opportunity to welcome our third child into the world over the weekend. A little premature,
congratulations.
but been focused other areas. So my apologies for not being
Well, I
better
hope
prepared
everybody's
this morning
doing
or this
well.
afternoon. Yes, sir. I appreciate that. But moving right on to the governor's, we're on the bottom of page 6 in the governor's document, referred to as 55.1 and 55.2. Start with the easiest one first. The second one, 55.2, is just a small adjustment in agency premiums based off calculations. We have no problems, no issues with that. Moving up to 55.1, the retention and recruitment adjustment of just over $84,000. As you've heard other agencies state, Mr. Chairman and members, we are short on that as well. We're short about $18,000 to make us whole. And I want to reiterate that these are it's 100% state-funded employees that we're short on. We're working with our federal partners to make up their end of the balance on our federally funded employees, but we are roughly $18,000 short there for that. And I also think I'm behind on sharing that information, but I will be happy to get that to Lindsay and to show where we are short. Mr. Chairman, I told you I would be short and sweet, and that's about it. Be happy to take any comments or answer any questions the committee might have, though.
Questions from the committee? All right, thank you very much.
Yes, sir. I
Maybe
appreciate your
hope you
time.
can catch up on some sleep one day.
We're headed to do that now.
All right. Commissioner Williams, Department of Natural Resources.
Thank you,
Add it
Mr.
up.
Chairman and members of the committee. I'd like to start off by introducing Artisha Gaston. A lot of y'all know her. She's our Director of Administration, or as we said when I was in the Army, she's in charge of the beans, everything from the beans to the bullets in our agency, so does us a great job. Members, I want to thank you first for inviting me here to do the F-24 budget. I'm Mark Williams, Commissioner, Department of Natural Resources. And I'd like to thank you all for your great work on our amended budget, amended 23, the great additions and for added repairs and upgrading our outdoor recreation opportunities. Our law enforcement division is particularly excited about the advantages of the new statewide radio system. We're grateful for the $2,000 cost of living adjustment for full-time employees and the additional $2,000 the House added for our law enforcement officers. For the sake of time, I'll skip over the statewide changes to agency premiums and merit system assessment billings or fringe benefits, and our budget can be found on pages 11 through 19. First, on page 15, line 239.1, you'll find a $1,050,961,000 addition to make the GOSA Trust Fund whole, which is based on FY22 collections, the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Act. We have to start the process by statute in the summer before the fiscal year is over, so there's an estimate made. This makes it whole, and it will be carried over into the next year's allocations for awards. On page 16, line 241.4, we have an addition of $217,000. This is for $857, and this is for our portion this year of the statewide radio system with the other law enforcement agencies. On page 19, you'll find two items. Line 244.4 shows a reduction of $24,945 to the Wildlife Endowment Trust Fund, which is funded by lifetime license sales. But don't panic, they didn't go down. It was an accounting error that we're working with OPB to fix, and we actually had an increase of $27,470. So our lifetime license sales had another good year. On line 244.5, we have a yes item to utilize existing funds for a fish hatchery renovations, wildlife management area maintenance shops construction, and other management activities. With that, Mr. Chairman, from what I've seen from the tracking sheet, I think you said they have theirs on the house from yesterday.
Yes, sir.
Line 34.7.4 adds funds back to the Georgia Games Commission, and an additional $50,000. So that is a pass-through for me. It's not for the agency, but it is in our budget at $100,000. Line 34.7.6 adds funds for the Georgia Council on American Indian Concerns. That is also a pass-through for us. So those are some of the House changes.
Commissioner, my understanding, and you may not know a lot more than I do about this, but the Georgia State Games Commission is sort of a youth Olympics to encourage physical fitness and exercise with our young people. So they hold an Olympics style competition with awards and all the ceremony that goes with that, I suppose.
They do. It's a great program. I think it was started the year we had the Olympics here, after the Olympics. I'm certainly not an expert.
That's what I read.
I've spoken with Mr. Massey about it and their
Okay.
executive director.
All right, any questions for Commissioner Williams? Do you have a lot of open slots, Commissioner?
We've got 93 out of 1,600 employees. And I understand what you're getting at, and that's something we work on every year, but to whether we pay our critical jobs more or have a lot of people doing not so critical jobs, I think is what you're trying to get at, Mr. Chairman, and that's a good plan.
Yeah, just would like the budget to accurately reflect what's actually happening in our agencies.
We will be at, we got 17 game wardens in the academy. That'll put us at 208. And then we have another academy scheduled for this year, which will probably start at about a little under 20 cadets or 20 officers.
I know you all were literally a lifesaver for Georgia residents during the COVID lockdown, and did a lot to give us opportunities to not totally lose our mind and get outside and enjoy the great outdoors and improve our mental health and physical health. Are you seeing traffic and activity get back to normal? Do you think we'll have people that have discovered our state parks? I mean, are we going to have a continued bump from that, do you think?
Yes, in the height of COVID, just to name a few parks, Cloudland Canyon, there was a couple on our South Carolina border where the states had closed theirs that we actually had to use the State Patrol and DOT, and we were letting one car in, one car out. And Director Cowan says we're seeing a lot. We can track repeat customers because it's an online system, and we're seeing a lot of those come back. But again, I'm very proud of the work. It took buy-in from the General Assembly. It took leadership from the governor, and our employees at the highest levels bought into the fact that, in my opinion, I could be challenged on this, the only state that kept everything open from boat ramps to non-resident, resident hunting, beaches, state parks completely, so Georgians could get outside and recreate. And very proud of the work we did, but we couldn't have done it without buy-in from the General Assembly supporting us on that and the governor's decision to do it. So,
Well, thank you.
yes, sir.
All right. Appreciate it.
I will say it came in right at turkey season, so it was a bad year to be a turkey. Harvest was up 22%.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Next, I'll invite the Georgia Agricultural Exposition Authority to come forward, and their executive director, Stephen Shemp, and their staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a
Yes,
pleasure
sir.
to be here with you today. I have with me Ms. Lori Dowd. She is our CFO, and Kelly Owen, who is our Youth Livestock Director. And they're here to answer any questions. Lori put this presentation together for you today. And in the interest of time, I'd like to start with the House budget, if I can. They added in approximately, well, $224,000, as well as another $98,400 to address the $2,000 COLA. It's page 2113.7 on the House budget.
What number?
Page 2113.7.
They may have a different page number.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So-
They're reading from the House budget because there weren't any changes in the governor's budget.
All right, bear with us 1 minute.
So page
20,
21 maybe.
line 13.7 on the tracking sheet.
On the House budget, yeah, the
The-
track.
It just says track sheet at the top. Okay.
And we appreciate the House doing that for us. Again, that, at our facility, the critical jobs are those cleaning the restrooms and shoveling the horse stalls, to be honest with you, and the pig pens. So that allows us to take care of those folks as well as others. We're not quite as big as other agencies, but anything helps in retention. We've had a pretty good turnover rate at the bottommost levels of our pay scale. Folks will leave you for $1 more somewhere else. So this will definitely help, and we appreciate the consideration for that. Lori has put together a presentation on an ask that we have. We have a very, very good problem at the Georgia National Fairgrounds, and I know that most of y'all, as I look in here, I think have been in the arena, in the pig arena, the goat arena, or the cow showing cattle. So we have a good problem, is that we have too many youth who want to show animals with us. They are outgrowing our facility. I think what y'all's efforts have done to put agriculture into the elementary schools, I think you're seeing that pay off, and we're seeing it by the increased number of small species animals that they're wanting to show. So we do have a request, and with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Dowd.
Yep, our total capital request is about $2.8 million, and about 1.5 of that is for the design phase for a new swine, sheep, small species, barn, arena, and walkway, just to see, how to lay all that out and what we need to address that problem that we're having now with the growth. Another $840,000 of that is to get us 2 LED monumental entrance signs and the replacement and enhancement of our landmark digital sign that's downtown on Salmon Boulevard. The internal workings of that sign are shot. I think they're obsolete. We got to get all that replaced. Another $500,000 of that is for the Deep South RV expansion. That's to get everything to 50 amp capability. So a lot of our shows, it's big RVs coming in, horse, people coming in, and they need the 50 amp capability at the RV sites.
We'd be glad to answer any questions.
Question?
I always got to cross-pollinate. So when you put all these 50 amp plugs out there and hooking up the air conditioner or what have you, what happens when they start going to electric vehicles and they're pulling them in there? Are you making provision so that you can come back and add or pull wiring in for the charging systems that?
We have a hotel in our pipeline that will be meeting with them, and one of their initiatives is going to be taking care of that problem for us. We've been in talks with them in their parking lot, having a special area for electric vehicles, but we would always be open to anything on the, I know that they would maybe service the immediate need for electric vehicle plug-ins. I know that Middle Georgia is very not. We've got a Buc-ee's maybe in that area.
Stripling's has.
Stripling's has it.
two
We
or
have
three,
one
I
across the street.
Yeah.
But yeah, we could always use more, no doubt.
The reason I bring it up is a 50 amp outlet is typically a type 2 charger, something in the 10 kW range. And for me, I just, if you're having to go in and revamp your electric system, put in new conduits and do those pulls, small percentage, but there may be an opportunity there. So glad you're thinking that way.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So what amp does it need to be for these electric? What if, are we gonna have electric RVs? Is that what?
Well, I don't know that you're gonna have, and you may very well see more electric RVs, but what I'm looking at is somebody pulling one of these pickup trucks that's
Ford
electric
Lightning
that coming in there or something, and because they're going to be there for a long period of time, they don't really need a fast charger, but a type 2 charger said they would charge most vehicles in a 8-hour time period. So that'd be plenty. I just, you always got to think, okay, state dollars, you're right there on the interstate, you got a lot of people coming to see you. Glad y'all are thinking ahead.
Thank you. Chairman Anderson.
This is just a thought. I mean, May could reduce your request on the budget if you could get your senator to volunteer and do a lot of the work.
Maybe in the barn.
We'll take all the help we can get.
Yeah, shovel in the barn, that'd be about the top of my skill level. Yeah, that'd be right.
I did want to say thank y'all for the increase of young people. That's all.
So, and you had a wonderfully successful fair also.
We did.
And I will say both at the fair and we just got done with the livestock show and rodeo. Kelly will attest, we're busting at the seams in the barns. They're putting 3 show pigs to a pen sometimes. There's no place to put equipment in the barns. We've seen it really COVID and with y'all's efforts, and thank you for that. Getting, the earlier we capture, I think, young people with agriculture, the better. I mean, their interest is peaking right now when they get into middle school. So we're seeing that big time. We actually had Gwinnett County visit us during the fair. They're interested in building a barn. So that to us, home run. I mean, that's what we're there for, and we appreciate y'all's efforts in that. We really do.
And for about the last decade, I think you've been about 90. It'll vary a percent or two, at about 90% self-sufficient as far as your operating costs. So that's commendable.
And I'll
I do want to get with Lori on the planned projects.
Yes.
You may have sent me something already.
It's in here. I've got a whole breakout for you.
Okay.
When you look at our current financials, and I tell our staff this, we look rich on paper, but we're poor in projects. Our buildings need attention. So our revenues that we've really have had our foot on the gas. I mean, there's not a weekend we're not running wide open. And those revenues that we're seeing, we look to invest those right back into the facility and into our retention programs. So we're 30 years old, and it's like your house. It's time to look at the roof, the windows, the doors, and everything. So
and we appropriated a good bit of money last year for specific projects that have yet to be started or completed. Is that correct?
I've got a summary here of each of our ongoing projects that we have, including that $9 million cash in the amended FY22. Got an update there on where we're going. We're finally getting to the point where we can ramp up some of that spending there. We had some supply chain issues, getting things going just during COVID and all, and just getting people to work.
Contractors are tough to find. It's been an unusual situation for us.
And also some of the big ticket items like the HVAC and all, we've got to have the time to do those in the buildings, and we have events scheduled, a year out now, so we have to wait until we can
Take them
get
offline
in
for a little
there.
while.
Yes, yes. One of the biggest things is the HVAC, and so Reeves Arena is our first priority with that, and that came back about 57% higher than the original request for it. So we are,
Our operational
Yeah.
funds, we'll put it in there to make up the difference,
we're
the
looking at
cost
making up the
increase.
difference with that. But that's gonna take 3 months to do, and so I think it's about, what, we said maybe February next year, right after the rodeo, plan to get that going, so.
And Laura, you've got to have, some dry powder ahead of the fair.
Yes.
Do you have a figure, how much cash on hand do you need to prepay for entertainment and that kind of thing for the fair?
I've got that laid out there on page 7 of where I think we'll be going into the fair. We've got about $1 million worth of items we're paying for with our operating money right now that will definitely be done before the fair, should be, and that'll put us in a pretty good standing going into the fair. We have another nearly $3 million to spend on other things that not all that can happen before the fair. We just don't have time to do all that. But.
So if you haven't been to the Georgia National Fair, please come. I think everybody on this committee has probably been, but once you get in the gate with your admission ticket, all the entertainment is included with admission. They went kind of to that. We don't have ticketed concerts anymore, but some real big names, concerts that are all included with your ticket, and they've got to prepay those artists and entertainment and other things, you know, a deposit at least to get them to, you know, show up. So
We'll definitely go down.
so this
before we go back
$1,000,004
up.
at the bottom, I guess, would be sufficient to.
That is where I estimate we would be at if we addressed all of these
Okay.
projects here.
All right. Thank you.
Yes.
Any questions from the committee?
Thank you.
y'all for your
Appreciate
hard
y'all.
work.
We do have some good concerts coming too. I won't tell you yet, but we got some good ones.
All right, Director Dunn, are you ready?
I'm ready, sir.
We're ready for you. Environmental Protection Division.
Good afternoon, Chairman Walker,
afternoon.
members of the subcommittee. Pleasure to be with you today. My name is Rick Dunn. I'm the director of EPD. We had no changes in the House from the governor's budget, so I'll just be working straight off your tracking sheet, and I hope my page numbers are right.
Okay.
We administer 3 programs in the Department of Natural Resources budget. That's section 34 on your tracking sheet. From the version I downloaded yesterday, it was pages 11 through 19. Is that right? Good. So the 3 programs we administer are Environmental Protection, which is program 238, the Hazardous Waste Trust Fund, which is program 240, and the Solid Waste Trust Fund, which is program 243. I'll start off with item 238.1, which is on page 14, and that is the $2,000 COLA increase for all full-time employees. The total cost of this increase will be $2.4 million. The state funds provided here are almost $628,000. Retention and recruitment have been our largest issues, like other agencies, since the pandemic. Over the past 2 years, our turnover rate has been about 20% per year, which is about twice our historic average. Almost all of our turnover can be attributed to our salary structure. About 85% of our workforce are what we call STEM employees. These are environmental specialists, engineers, geologists, modelers, lab scientists. All of these folks are in very high demand in private industry and in other government bodies, federal government, local governments, consulting agencies, et cetera. It's not uncommon for an employee to leave EPD and receive a 30 to 50% increase in pay. So that's what we're working with. To kind of get to your questions, Mr. Chairman, before starting this fiscal year, we were able to invest about $8.3 million into additional pay for our environmental professionals. About a third of that came from funds from the General Assembly. The rest, the remaining 2/3, though, was self-financed. Was scraping together federal funds, some cost savings, as well as our fee structure as well. So this had a big impact. For the first 6 months of this fiscal year, we experienced 61 separations, which is about a 25% decrease from where we were this time last year. So the pay increases have had a big impact. I think more impressive is the progress we made in our vacancy rates. Last year at this time, our vacancy rate was about 14%. It's down to about 7%. Just to kind of anticipate some of your questions from before, we have a little over 700 positions, and those are all real positions. They're not positions we can't fill that's been on the books forever or anything like that. So we typically, at any time during this fiscal year, we have about 50 positions that are open. One good thing about the pay increase is we've had, again, the vacancy rate reflects this, is dramatically increased our ability to recruit employees. The way the pay structure, or the way the pay increases have been structured, they've been flat rates, right? $2,000, $5,000, things like that. On a percentage basis for your higher paid employees, your more senior employees, it's not as large, right? So it's made a big impact in terms of our ability to recruit. It's had less of an impact on our ability to retain some of our more senior employees, if that makes sense. Though our salary structure is not quite where it needs to be, it's a lot better with that investment, and this $2,000 additional increase will help us tremendously. Also included there under the Environmental Protection Program are 2 other statewide changes related to risk premiums. That's 238.2 and merit systems assessments, which is 238.3. If you move down to the Hazardous Waste Trust Fund program on page 15, is that correct? Program 240. One item there that aligns the budget with fees collected from the 75 cent per ton tipping fee at landfills. HB 511 from 2021 dedicated these fees to the Hazardous Waste Trust Fund, and last year about $17.5 million in tipping fees were collected. And the budget modification you see there, the addition of about $9.9 million, aligns the base budget with the FY22 collections. If you move down to the Solid Waste Trust Fund program on page 18, item 243.1, same thing there. It aligns the budget for the Solid Waste Trust Fund with the fees collected with the $1 tire replacement fee. Just like tipping fees, the tire replacement fee was dedicated to the Solid Waste Trust Fund by HB 511. Last year's collections were $7.66 million, which is $37,698 higher than the FY23 base, and that's why you see the adjustments there. I don't think the bond items were included, but we do have 2 items in the general obligation bonds. We have a roof replacement on our district office in Brunswick, and we have a replacement of 13 vehicles, which is about 6% of our fleet. Mr. Chairman, those are the changes in the House and the governor's budget. And I'd be more than happy to try to answer any questions you or the committee may have.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Director. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
All right. Dean Place, you're up next with the College of Ag and Environmental Science. This is UGA College of Ag.
Must be taller than me. Well, good afternoon, and thank you for having us, Chairman Walker, Senators. Good to see you. Lindsay, good to see you as well. And so I wanted to have an opportunity to share with you about some of the things that are happening in the college, and then also I thought I would go through the budget sheet that the House marked up. There are a couple of handouts that I've left there for you with some additional information. One is an update about the college and things that we are working on. Our goal is still to be the #1 college of agriculture and environmental sciences in the country, and we're on our way towards that. And we also want to refer to our college as the research and development arm for the #1 industry in the state, which is agriculture, making very good headway in that regard. To go specifically into the House, the budget sheet that the House marked up, we are in section 41, and I'm in page 86 of 117. And the first section there is an agriculture experiment station, so that is 41.1 through 41.1.6. So the first item there relates to the $2,000 cost of living adjustment, and we again are very appreciative of that. That is certainly going to be very helpful for us, for our faculty and staff that are working on research side. 41.1.2, that is a transfer of funds from UGA to Fort Valley, so that's basically just transfer money to them for their state match. 41.1.3, that is in relation to health benefits that go with a $2,000 cost of living adjustment. 41.1.4, that number is $350,000, and that relates to 5 positions at the proposed integrated precision agriculture demonstration farm at Perry, which would be there adjacent to the Georgia National Fairgrounds, which you just heard about a few minutes ago. 41.1.5, that is funds for 3 faculty to work on peach and citrus research work, and that amount is $750,000. There also is $100,000 noted there for vertical farming greenhouse planning study. So that relates to the major efforts that are underway here in the state related to vertical greenhouses, high-end greenhouses, and so this would be a feasibility study to make a determination about what particular things we should be working on in relation to research, extension, as well as teaching efforts related to that. Moving down to the Cooperative Extension Service section, so that's 41.3. 41.3.1 as well as the 41.3.3 relate to the $2,000 raise. Again, very appreciative of that. Right now, cooperative extension agents, starting salary for those with bachelor's level is $42,000. Those with master's level is $52,000. So this would help to increase that, as well as help us with retention of extension agents, which is always been a challenge, I would say, for us, so this would be a help for that. 41.3.2, like above, this is some pass-through funds from us for Fort Valley State University related to their state match. And then underneath that, 41.3.4 relates for 3 research technician positions to support peanut breeding and extension, so that's $245,000. So that is there thanks to the Georgia Peanut Federation. Had asked for those funds, and that would go in to help us with our peanut breeding program. And then the last item here's 41.3.5. So that's $603,750 for 7 county extension agents that we would add to our team that we have across the state. Before I take any questions, I would also thank you for what we have in the amended budget. So there's $1.16 million that will be going towards the Perry Integrated Precision Agriculture Demonstration Farm, and that's for infrastructure, as well as $3 million that will go towards cabin upgrades at Rock Eagle. So that'll be a step towards the $15 million need that we have there at Rock Eagle. That $3 million is going to help a lot. And I would also call out the $5 million for renovations to the old poultry science building, which is in the FY24 budget under capital project priority funding. And I would point out that our new poultry science building is well on its way, and thanks to the state, have invested a lot of funds into that. That building is projected to be finished or planned to be finished in September. We'll be moving in the fall, be teaching classes there in January. We'll be looking to have a ribbon cutting in November, and we'll be certainly letting you know about that when that is made available. So Chairman Walker, I will stop there, but very happy to address any questions that people have.
Chairman Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Dean, and we appreciate your work at UGA. You're doing a great job. I want to highlight 41.3.4 and 41.3.5. Thank you for that. I live in ag country, and we grow peanuts, and we grow cotton, and we grow corn, and a lot of other stuff, but I want you to know we need good research support and extension support for those crops. And I'd like to just acknowledge the fact that Extension's #1 goal is to, in my mind, is to support production agriculture in Georgia, and we'd be grateful for your support in that area.
Yep, absolutely. I'm totally in agreement with that. I came up through Extension, so I'm fully aware of what you're talking about there, Senator.
And again,
so
thank you for the support in peanut breeding and for the Extension agents.
Yep, appreciate that. Thank you.
Chairman Anderson.
Thank you for your presentation. I'm talking about the county agents. Are they gonna be in new counties, or are they gonna be, in some counties we already got county agents?
They'll be in counties where we currently have some vacancies, and which there are a number of those. Right now, we have 318 county extension agents. We want to get that to 350 as our overall goal, so that would be matching state money with county money to get to that. So this would be, the funds noted here would be a step in that direction to get us more to that fully funded, or that full force, I would say, of 350.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. Thank you for your presentation.
You're very welcome. And you also should have a handout there about a legislative reception that we're holding on Wednesday, March 22nd over at the Freight Depot. We'd love to see you all there. And if you're interested in going, there's some information there about RSVP and letting us know so we can make sure we're all set for you. So thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman Walker.
Thank you. All right.
By the way, there's somebody's glasses here.
They've been there.
Oh. I just noticed. Just in case we need them.
We've got Mr. Don Kohler from the Georgia Peanut Commission with us, and we appreciate his presence and the good work the Georgia Peanut Commission does to help us with a really important cash crop for our farmers, and all the new varieties and the increase in yields that they've been able to help us achieve, and keep up the good work, Don. Thank you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate this committee, and Senator Burns, I'm also appreciative of the money for the peanut breeder and for the extension technician. So thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you. Last but certainly not least, UGA College of Veterinary Medicine.
Appreciate that,
Good to see you again, Dean.
It's good to see you too.
She's got some exciting news to report, I believe.
We do. Should I go?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Walker, members of the committee. We really appreciate being able to visit with you today. And thank you in person for all your help last year in shoring up funding for our diagnostic labs, the new food animal medicine hauling facility in Tifton, and our poultry diagnostic research center. I did want to take a few minutes to brag, but that's allowable.
Yes, ma'am.
I just thought you'd enjoy knowing we're a fully accredited, full-service veterinary medical school in the land-grant tradition. Our college is home to 230 faculty, 700 staff, and over 1,000 students. We are home to the state's only full-service tertiary care veterinary teaching hospital, a primary care hospital, a food animal hauling practice in Tifton, a center of excellence of wildlife research and diagnostics, 2 full-service, fully accredited, federally networked veterinary diagnostic laboratories, one in Athens and another in Tifton, a poultry diagnostic research center, and 3 of the university's great research centers, the Centers for Vaccines and Immunology, the Center for Neurologic Disease Research, headed by the Isaacson Chair, and the soon-to-be-formed Center for Precision One Health. Our clinical and diagnostic services are some of the most extensive in the world for a College of Veterinary Medicine, running the gamut from the country's first bee medicine program to the care of whale sharks, poultry, wildlife, livestock, the family pet, and even human beings, as demonstrated during the COVID pandemic, where our diagnostic labs provided the surveillance testing for our campus and the testing necessary to support the functioning of 5 human hospitals and clinics serving 20 counties across southwest Georgia. And as you know, we have one of the nation's best veterinary hospitals. Occupied only 7 years or so ago, this marvelous facility has allowed us to greatly enhance our service to Georgians and their animals, resulting in a doubling of our caseload over that time. Something, I tell you, we take great pride in. And I think you should know that while many other teaching hospitals around the nation closed to all-night and weekend emergency care during COVID, ours stood tall, and they remained open, ensuring our patients got the care they needed when they needed it. We're so proud of them. And our research has global reach, respect, and impact. Members of our college serve as White House advisors on vaccines, WHO advisors on food safety practices, and FDA advisors on a variety of topics. Our faculty leaders serve USDA and NIH grant panels, and our funding counts among the largest grant in UGA history and comes from various sources reflecting the depth of expertise in animal and human health. And remarkably, over the past 6 years or so, our research has doubled, making us #1 among U.S. colleges of veterinary medicine and research, which is truly a remarkable accomplishment. In fact, achieving this goal has been part of our 5-year journey to excellence, where we work to improve our college across all its missions, including teaching, clinical and diagnostic service, and research, with the goal of becoming the nation's best college of veterinary medicine. Now, as part of this journey, we've worked to expand our class size to help mitigate the veterinary workforce shortages we're experiencing here in Georgia. But to do so, we first had to improve our classrooms and teaching labs to ensure we remained accredited even with more students. I'm proud to say our teaching and study spaces have been or will be upgraded. Our first cohort of 150 students will graduate with their DVMs in spring of 2025, and we remain fully accredited. Now, in addition to that, we've doubled our graduate student enrollment to 400 students, and have enrolled 170 students in our first ever undergraduate major this past fall. In fact, over the past few years, the college has almost doubled its overall student enrollment. In other words, we're well on our way to becoming the nation's best college of veterinary medicine by the numbers. And that's not all. We've also made dedicated efforts to recruit bright young people with interest in food animal medicine and rural practice into our college through various outreach programs. We worked with UGA's College of Agriculture to double the number of food animal VIP slots that guarantee admissions into our program. We've been active participants in the Baby Barn, Georgia National Fair, and 4-H activities. Provided outreach like vet camp, vet school for a day, and open house to young people around our state. Made over 40 outreach presentations to industry stakeholders and partnered with schools such as ABAC, Valdosta State, and Fort Valley State to facilitate exposure of their students to veterinary medicine. And we'll soon initiate programs in Tifton to help educate that next generation of ag leaders. With all that being said, I just want you to know how grateful we are for your continued assistance, including with the $2,000 raises in the governor's budget, and with the House's budget, including the $100,000 in planning money for a new diagnostic lab in Athens. Now, the two items we have are in your tracking document. Section 13.1.2 and 13.1.3.
That should be the first page of the House.
The tracking sheet.
It's right at the top of the first page.
I say that wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
First, page 49 of this document, or 19, it's the first page,
Okay.
front page.
Now, as you're aware, the Athens Diagnostic Lab exists to prevent, control, and eradicate animal diseases. But of course, when needed, we step up and perform a crucial role in public service, public health as well. The lab is full service, fully accredited, and a Tier 1 lab in the National Animal Health Laboratory Network. As such, it performs animal diagnostics and surveillance testing. And if there is an animal emergency, like we're going through right now with highly pathogenic avian influenza, the lab is activated by the national network and rapidly ramps up to do whatever is needed to support our ag industries. However, we have aging facilities. They're inefficient, they're cramped, and ill-designed for today's molecular diagnostics. The kind of diagnostics that just didn't exist when the lab was built, and they require a dedicated workflow. They require huge instrumentation, and we have done all kinds of things to accommodate this, creating workarounds. Our people have been very creative, but we're really at a point where there's just no more room for capacity building or growth. And we also don't have a BSL-3, the high containment lab, or a necropsy space on site in the lab, which is a requirement for the National Animal Laboratory Network, really putting our continued participation in that federal program in question. Also, our current facility, those of you that drive large stock trailers will appreciate this, that's landlocked by other structures. It can't be expanded on site, and growth of other structures around it have really made it difficult to get large stock trailers in there hauling carcasses. I'm just not sure I could do it in an RV. For this reason, we're so thankful for the $100,000 included in the House budget for the initial planning phase of a 3-phase project to construct a new Athens Diagnostic Lab on the hospital campus. And I hope y'all will agree with that. We're also thankful for the House including $150,000 in recurring salary and benefits for 2 staff positions in animal disease diagnostics for the Tifton Veterinary Diagnostic Lab. This replaces funding that was lost when the National Animal Health Laboratory Network restructured. So nothing they did wrong, they just restructured, and so we need some coverage for that. So we really appreciate your support, and we're glad to try to answer any questions. Our CFO, Rob Clark, is here with me. So.
Questions for the dean? So Dean, are you able to share, and quickly, I guess, the honeybee project? Or
We're so proud of that. And, you know, that evolved out of us trying to be helpful to the ag industry. When I first came here, I was invited down to speak at Farm Bureau. And I'm telling you, I had just a deluge of people chasing me around saying, what are you going to do about the bees? Because FDA had mandated that any treatments for bees be overseen by a veterinarian. So I came back to the college and said, what are we doing about the bees? And turned out we weren't doing anything. So one of our faculty members, York Mayer, his usual patient might be whale sharks, but he does exotic medicine. He took it upon himself. He got to become a certified beekeeper, and he set up the first bee medicine program in the United States. How about that? And now the company, Dahlin, has relocated from California to be near the College of Ag and the College of Vet Medicine to take advantage of our strengths in bee medicine. So we're very excited about that. I mean, for those of you that raise crops, you know how important bees are. We're just not going to live very long without them. So this company has created the first bee vaccine. So we're helping test it. Isn't that a great story?
pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing. And if you haven't seen,
takes a real small needle.
and a lot of patience. You got to catch them.
Obviously, they don't do it that way.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make sure that Dean Nolan, you know, saving the honeybee is a wonderful thing. Killing yellow jackets is more fun.
I think we're doing a pretty good job of that.
That's a pretty good one to end on, I think. I like that. Go dogs.
Go dogs.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you all.
No. We do not have anybody from the School of Forestry, but we've communicated with them already. So that should be everything. Thank you for the patience, gentlemen, and we'll be in touch. But good information, so we can put our Senate stamp on this section of the budget. All right, we stand adjourned.